Hello everyone, welcome to a World of Warship Blitz video, and today's video we have the new Tier 6 Premium British Heavy Cruiser, the London. So, very briefly about the London. It is sort of the Tier 6 version of the Exeter. Slightly more effective. The Exeter I really struggle with. It has heavy large guns, but it has pretty poor dispersion, and it only has 6 of them, so it can be a bit of a struggle to play. It does have British smoke and has the British single fire torpedoes, which, to be fair, is, well, I don't find them particularly advantageous really. I'd prefer the tight spread that the Japanese have, but anyway. So the London is, well, the best thing I can say about the London is I like the green on the historical camo. Otherwise, the ship is, I would have to probably say, fairly ordinary. So it has taken a few battles. Now that's probably because I'm not playing it to its best advantage. I think it is a ship that does benefit from people who know better selection of ammunition types, and I suppose I'm quite spoiled in British cruisers because most British Tech 2 cruisers, your selection of ammunition type is very limited to AP. So here we are, we're getting inside the cap. We have some ships trying to steal around the side. I'm getting really heavily targeted by this carrier, which is of course extremely frustrating. And we're going to start to try and deal with some of this Bajoni stuff going on now. I probably fire my torpedoes a little bit early there. That he is turning, although that Okhotnik looks like it could be a bit of an advantage. He's fired his torpedoes at me. Let's hope I don't get too badly slammed. If we can get some shots into him, hopefully we can, well, we may not be able to sink him, but we can at least make sure that he's easy for someone else to sink. That Okhotnik looks like he's getting a bit of a challenge going on there, so we land some shots in him. He managed to get past all but the final of those torpedoes. That takes his health down. The Okhotnik is just a big, huge, inviting target, to be fair. That was, yeah. So, unusually for me, I'm outside the circle, because really, it just doesn't have the agility, it doesn't have the niftiness of the, let's say, the Leander. So inside the circle is a very bad place for the ship to be, which means that I'm in the unusual position of providing some flank support, which, to be fair, is a lot better than trying to get inside that circle. And yeah, so only one hit on that destroyer. Someone else takes him down. That's it, caster gone. So yeah, now that the ships are starting to thin out a bit. So what's its role? Well, it does have hard-hitting guns, but they don't feel like they hit that hard against battleships. They do feel like they hit hard against cruisers, but pretty much anything takes on cruisers, battleships, carriers, other cruisers. So being effective against cruisers perhaps isn't the greatest skill. It is a bit more multi-role than, let's say, the Leander. It is capable of firing HE, but it is rather slow firing HE. It does set fires, but yeah, and as you can see there, I'm getting a lot of bounces, and that's one of the things that I noticed in the Exeter, and I also noticed in the London, is that, sure, I get some shots through, but I just don't seem to get more bounces than anything that I can remember. So maybe just the luck of the draw and the angles that I'm firing on, but it just doesn't seem to quite have the same punchy penetration that, let's say, the Pensacola has, which is also Tier 6. I seem to remember that, you know, really getting into the into the bad guys through the bad guys' armor. So yeah, so the London is well, I mean, the good thing about it is that the Blitz pass is quite cheap. So if for New Zealand dollars it's $16 and you get yourself a London, you'll eventually rack up about 1,500 gold, which is basically what you need to pay for the historical camo. So you get the historical camo by grinding for it, or you can have a London bear without the historical camo if you prefer, but I do like the historical camo on my premium ships. I would probably describe it as a little bit like the Exeter hard mode engaged, so, or the Okhotnik. It's a ship that isn't going to, the Fiji is just a natural savage killing ship, whereas the London just doesn't quite have that same savagery. associated with it. I mean, even the Leander, used right and in the right circumstances, the Leander can be a brutal little sucker. But the London just feels a little bit genteel. It's a little bit large, and I probably need to change its loadout, because I have got it loaded out like my typical British cruiser, which is concealment in the third slot, steering in the second slot. And what I find is that its acceleration and deceleration are so poor that when I fire off my smoke, when I chuck it in reverse, the Leander or the Sirius or the Fiji comes to halt nicely inside the smoke. The London sticks its nose out. So I just need to potentially change some of those slot options. I mean, I do like the concealment because it means that I'm not the first thing fired at, which is, this cruiser doesn't have great armor. I mean, it's not entirely bad, but it just doesn't have that specialist feeling. It just feels like it's a little bit rough. It's it's okay, but it's not great at any particular thing. That's just my sense. Maybe that's me, maybe that's not me knowing how to play heavy cruisers. Its gun angles and torpedo angles are, yeah, not entirely the most fabulous. But yeah, I mean, it's got a great looking green historical camo, very light, very fetching green. Anyway, so there's the London. It's probably not the greatest review, but I think the British heavy cruisers may be an acquired taste. Certainly the British light cruisers it feels a little bit off. It just doesn't have that dogfighting or that knife fighting capability that, let's say, Leander or Fiji has. And it just doesn't have that standoff capability like the Russian cruisers. So there's the London. So it gets a lot of badges. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, but it's cheap. So there you go, London. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.